soon. Back at the general direction of the Magneto, I kicked this bike over expecting great big blue balls of spark to come out of it, and of course was just shocked when the Magneto didn't work. No spark was coming out of it. So what I did is I replaced the condenser, which is a cheap fix, didn't do anything to it. So now I'm going to have to go and have this Magneto coil replaced. It's a bit of a high buck item, but it's something that I'm willing to put into the bike. These are the carburetors off the BMW, and I'm going to have to rebuild them. It'd make life a lot easier trying to get the bike started. One of the things off of the top of one of the carburetors, this top cap was broken here. That's going to have to be replaced. And as I was taking this off, the rubber ring that goes in there is very brittle, which probably about all the other rubber parts in the carburetor are brittle, ready to fall apart. So I'm just going to go through this. I'm not going to clean these up, but go through them and also check the flanges to see how flat they are. One of these ticklers, I believe it's this one. This one works, but the tickler on this side doesn't work. And I want to check out what these look like on the inside. I expect them to be clean on the inside, but just going to go through them, check them out, have to rebuild them. But one thing you should always remember when you're dealing with precision parts like this is that you should really keep alcohol and an ignition source away from your work. What? Well, I've taken this one apart, and I was really quite surprised that the parts that I took out of there were really gummed up. This float is all gummed up here. The float chamber top is pretty bad shape on the inside. The jets that I took out of it are all plugged up. This engine would have never have run if I didn't take these carburetors apart and do something about them. So I will order some more parts, clean these ones up, and put it back together when I get all my parts together. Now we get to see a looking up at the BMW view, and what I'm going to do is drain the oil from this and take down that oil pan to see what kind of sludge is left in there. That easy job turned quickly into a very hard job. I could not get all the bolts out of the pan. I had to remove the side stand, which was cemented into place by a rusty cotter pin. And it did take a while. It took me about 45 minutes to do that. But this is what the oil pan looks like. Let's bring it out here in the daylight, if that's possible. It's pretty much, I don't know if that's good. There, that's a little bit better. It's pretty much filled with sludge. So I'm going to look through the sludge and see if there's any, like piston rings or connector rods in there. Clean this up, put in a new gasket, and put it back on the bike. This is what a de-sludgified and new gasketized oil pan looks like. It's so beautiful. And now I'll start assembling the cylinder head here because I'm getting tired of working on all these little nitpicky things. I want to see what this thing looks like once we get the head on it. It's beginning to look a little bit more like a Beamer. Put the rocker arms in, torqued them down, haven't adjusted the valves yet. Put this very rusty exhaust pipe clamp on here. This is very time consuming and difficult to put on because it's very fine threads, and this steel part was very rusty, so it took me quite a long time, plus manipulating the exhaust system back and forth to get this on securely. I've set the valves and we'll do a check on them. It's 6,000 on the intake side, and that seems to be good, and 8,000 on the exhaust side. Set both sides, and now I'm going to run a compression check to see if we have some compression in this engine. Well, I checked the other side and I got 60 pounds. And a second check of this side here is 70 pounds. This is pretty low. There may be trouble in paradise here. I'm going to do some reading and some research on this, but hopefully this engine will run with low compression. It could just be because it's been sitting around for so long. Once I get it started, maybe the valves and the piston rings will seat themselves. Let's hope. I got a little surprised while putting this cover on. The center nut that I was running down, it kept running and running and running, and I find out that on both sides of the bike, the center bolt has been glued in basically. So what I have to do is to probably put a helicoil in there to repair this. Expensive things come in small boxes. Here's the old magneto coil, mid 20th century technology. Pretty bad looking, probably that's why it wasn't working. And the new stuff, late 20th century technology. Have to put that in the bike, see if I can get any spark out of it. Also, another expensive box came. When I was taking the carburetors apart, I noticed that the floats were cracked. I don't know if you can see the little cracks around the edge right here, but I was very surprised that on both floats the brass on them cracked. And when the float gets a crack like that, it turns into a sink. So we've got some new ones here. Expensive stuff, but the bike's not going to run unless it's on there. I'm going to clean out this gas tank, see what kind of crud is in here. I know it's filled with crud. I love this gas cap. It's completely rusted off to the point where the spring is popping out of it. Hey, don't scratch the gas tank. Whoa, what's this? A big hunk of something. This is what I took out of the gas tank. I think there's a tree stump in here somewhere.